Good evening, everyone. We will call the Planning Commissioners meeting to order. First, Commissioner Lopez, you want to lead us in a salute? What do you ask? If you'll lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. Ms. Meamber, can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Armstead,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez, here. Commissioner Garcia,
Present.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Sherrick,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia, Orlando.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Quill is excused, and then Commissioner Sherrick is absent today. Lewis,
Mr.
I'm
Lewis.
sorry.
Okay. For public comments, public comment for items listed and not listed on the agenda. A 3-minute limitation shall apply to each member of the public who wishes to address the Planning Commission on any item on the agenda, excluding public hearings. There is no limit to the number of items that may be discussed within the 3-minute time limit. Ms. Meamber, do you have the administration of oath for our public speakers, please?
Do we still read it if there's nobody for public speaking?
If any comments on any items,
Okay.
they would clarify that.
Okay. So if there's any comments.
Okay, so let's see. Is there anyone wishing to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda? All right, so we will invite speakers up. Any speakers? No?
And
Okay.
to clarify, speakers, this would be any item not on the public, on the agenda tonight, if there's any general comments. And I also would like to have our translator, no.
Si hay alguien aquí que ocupa traducción, por favor, si nos puede avisar. ¿Hay alguien que ocupa traducción?
Okay, next we'll go to the consent calendar. Consent items are routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All public and non-public hearings will be open at one time. Any item may be discussed separately upon request of a member of the Planning Commission or member of the public. Does staff have any updates to the consent calendar?
No, we do not.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the consent calendar? Okay. Since there aren't, may I entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we are ready to vote. Are there any?
Dolores. Oh, I can do it. I can do the vote.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Chair Armstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez? Yes. Commissioner Garcia? Yes. Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando Garcia?
Yes.
Vote is unanimous. It passes.
Okay, next, the public hearing items. The Planning Commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and fill out a speaking form. The forms are located at the table near the door. When your name is called, come forward and speak your name into the microphone. Say and spell your name for the taped record. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed, and Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All decisions except general plan amendments and municipal code amendments are final actions unless an appeal is filed, and fees paid within 15 days to the Community and Economic Development Department. If you challenge the resulting action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda or in written correspondence delivered to the Community and Economic Development Department at or before the public hearing. Okay, public hearing, item number 2, sign permit, staff presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and distinguished members of the Planning Commission. For your consideration this evening is the continuation of sign permit 23-058. And this is a request to allow refurbishment of the existing water tower for the purpose of painting a sign located at 2615 East 3rd Street. And this item, as noted, was a continuation from your January meeting, and we have Senior Planner Elizabeth Mora Rodriguez here to present the item to you.
Thank you, Mary. So as discussed, this is it's a continuation of an item for the Planning Commission from January 18th. It was continued to this meeting for the refurbishment of an existing water tower and allow for the installation of a painted sign. So I'm just going to go over and reintroduce the item for the commission. The project site is 2615 East 3rd Street within the Specific Alliance California Specific Plan. Here we have the location of the proposed signage where there is the existing water tower that was relocated at this location. Here's the existing water tower as it is right now. As discussed previously, in accordance with Section 19.22.06, Development Code allows for creative signs. The water tower was constructed as part of the Norton Air Force Base water supply system in 1959. It's approximately 160 feet high, with the tank being approximately 40 feet high and vertically elongated shape. It was relocated approximately 700 feet into this new location by the proponent. The sign will be creatively refurbished, the existing significantly important water tower to be used to install a painted sign that gives homage to the aeronautical history of the area through both the San Manuel and landing and the representation of a landing plane. As it relates to the meeting for the January 18th, 2024, Commissioner Quill and also the rest of the commission, after deliberation, they continued the item to today's meeting of February 13 to allow for the project applicant to revise the project design and incorporate a historical reference to the Norton Air Force Base and or the captain it was named for. As part of that, they have provided an incorporation of ground-mounted informational signs at 2 focal points, and I'm going to provide the information for those locations. So here is going to be, there is a representation of where those informational signs will be located that will provide information about the base in itself. One of the signs will have information about Captain Linton Norton at the location and his historical significance as part of being, since this was named after the captain. The second one is going to have some additional information about the base and quick facts about the information. I do have the applicant here, and they could provide a little bit more detail in terms of the details that will be provided as part of those informational signs. Here's the existing site as it is right now. With the proposed refurbishment of the sign, it will have the San Manuel landing and with the informational signs on the ground. With that, we do recommend that the Planning Commission adopt the Resolution 2024-001, finding the project categorically exempt pursuant to Section 15301, existing facilities, and approving sign 23058 based on findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. As I mentioned, I do have the applicant here. They have provided an additional PowerPoint and presentation to go into more detail in terms of the informational signs that they will be installing. So if you would like, we can definitely have them come up and provide that additional detail and information and answer any questions as well.
So at this time, Chair, if you could open the public hearing.
Really quick, Chair, if I may. I do want to make a small correction on the resolution, section 6, for custodian of records. There was a minor error. It was indicated that the custodian of record was going to be to the city clerk from the Development Environmental Review Committee. That was actually already changed, and it was a small typo, so to Planning Commission.
We will now open up for a public hearing. Do we have any public comments? Is the applicant here?
Good evening, Chairwoman and Planning Commissioners. My name is Peter Mateo. I'm the Planning and Development Director for San Manuel, and I'd like to thank you to reviewing our continuation of our proposed development permit for the signage, and I'm here to answer any questions. So, how do you?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
The water tower is where the people can come and see?
No, it's a private area. It's not public space. It is mainly for the park underneath it is for the employees of the building, ma'am.
So the signs would only be seen by the employees?
The two 18 by 24 inch signs most likely will only be seen by the employees. The area, the water tower park is private property.
Okay, so it's not for public consumption then?
No, ma'am, it's a private area.
And how high up, or are they on the ground, separate from the water tower, or attached
it's-
to the water tower?
Yes, ma'am, it's separate. I think we have some images here. So they'll probably go, they're about 1.5 feet wide or 2 feet wide and 1.5 feet tall. There'll be 2 information signs, one depicting, images of the base and uses of the base, and another one, kind of some fun facts about Captain Norton. And they're on 2 pedestals, and we'll have 2 of them on the walkway. But that area, as you see there, that's private property and will be open for our tenant, ma'am. And I also invite the Planning Commission, my project manager and I, we plan to do a field trip to the Norton Museum just to get some information about Captain Norton and the base. And if there's anyone wants to join us and kind of get some verbiage and imagery that you guys would like to see implemented, we'd invite you to come with us and go to the museum.
What was the reason for putting the signs there if it was private land?
The reason was we came to Planning Commission about a month ago, and in order to really honor those who served on the base and their families, we thought that would be a better expression of gratitude for their service. So we wanted to come back. We understand it's absolutely private property, but we thought it was a good way to kind of say thank you to their families.
Anybody else?
I was trying to pull up the minutes from that meeting, but I thought Commissioner Quill asked for something to be incorporated on the water tower.
Yes, ma'am. I took it to leadership and
Okay.
our board, and we thought this was kind of the compromise, especially being private property.
Understood.
Well, if it's private property and we're trying to designate that it was a historical site, they're not going to see it at the top of the water tower. How does the public know anything about this? It's at the foot on private property the public has no access to.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
why we wanted to see something up on the tower, something referencing. It's
Yeah,
a-
unfortunately, I can't do anything on the tower today. Like I said, we can provide some information to the museum, to do some sort of public outreach for it, but that was kind of our recommendation.
But you didn't clarify at the last meeting that this was totally private property and the public has no access, so having a plaque at the foot it really doesn't do much, because the public is not going to have access to see any of this history.
Yes, ma'am. It's private property. I don't think our tenant is willing to give up that space.
No, we're
But
not
we just wanted to
expecting
do
them to.
something,
We wanted something the public could see. That was the whole thing. We didn't know it was private and nobody would have access. We're not asking for access.
Yeah.
We're asking for something for the public to know it has a history. And right now, you're not doing any of that.
Yes, ma'am. The only thing I could say is we could kind of think of different imagery that we could, communicate with the museum. Maybe we can ask them to do, annual tours or something like that. It's something we'd have to work out with our tenant because that property's leased, right? But I'm just trying to kind of address some of the original comments in the past. But I still understand that this is a private sign on private property, similar to what you would see In-N-Out doing, or Chevron, or Bank of America.
Anyone else?
Just to clarify, you took this back to, please correct me if I'm wrong, your board, and your board decided that after hearing the recommendation from Planning Commission, this is what they went forward with?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. So it looks like there was no alterations made or no compromise made in regards to, I'm thinking back to our meeting, looking at the minutes, to the request in regards to the actual painting on the tower. I remember commenting on, looks like a beautiful piece, it's needed, but it looks like an advertisement piece. San Manuel Landing there. Nothing referencing the historic nature of the actual captain or of the base or the military or anything, just that. So that was all considered, and your board, I imagine, came back with the compromise of an 18-inch by 24-inch sign at the base for view of the private employees of your tenant, correct?
Yes, sir, there'd be two of them.
Okay, thank you.
I just had one or two questions. The first question is, although it is private property, is there a secured fence, or is it still accessible to?
There's fencing along Third and Victoria. However, there's driveways and things that, I mean, if a pedestrian can get up there, but we have security on site as well.
Okay. And then just the last question or comment, I'm for the project. I think it's an honor for, the Norton Airport and those that served the city and ultimately our country. That's all that I have, and I'm definitely for this project.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. Are there any speakers, any other public speakers on this item? If no, we will close the public hearing. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
And at this time, Chair, you could take it back for discussion of the Planning Commission and a motion. So if there's no discussion of the Planning Commission, Chair, then you could request a motion to either, for action on this particular item.
Is there any further discussion? Go ahead.
I don't have anything further. I'd just like to make a motion to approve this
I'll
item,
second.
number 2.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. Chair Armstead? Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Sherrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando Garcia?
Abstain.
Vote is 3 yeses, 2 abstains, 1 no. Motion passes.
Now we will proceed to item 3,
Hi.
and I need a staff presentation.
Yeah, good evening. Again, this is item 3. This is a proposal requested for a conditional use permit to allow conversion of an existing commercial building located on Orange Show Road. If you'll recall, this is actually a building that's been vacant for about 20 years. So our applicant is requesting reuse of that building to a electric vehicle servicing and collision center. And I have Senior Planner Travis Martin here to present the item to you.
All right, thank you, Mary, and thank you, Planning Commission. Item number 3 this evening, as noted, is conditional use permit 2023. This, as noted, is ultimately for the proposed establishment of an electric vehicle collision center. It is a conditionally permitted use within the CG1 zone where the property is located. The project would occupy an existing 30,000 square foot building. As noted, has been set vacant for a number of years. Project site is about 1.7 acres, just under that, and it's actually comprised of 2 sites, one located at 424 West Orange Show Road and the other at 455 West Orange Show Lane. As noted here, this is in the Commercial General 1 off of between Orange Show Road and Orange Show Lane is just east of E Street. The aerial here, you'll see the site currently has 2 buildings on it. The larger building fronting Orange Show Road would be what is converted to the collision center, and the rear building here would actually be demolished as part of the project, as I'll show on the forthcoming slide here. So kind of a breakdown of the whole project. Convert the existing building into the collision center. That rear building, as I noted, is about 6,000 square feet in size. This used to be an old post office, and then I believe it was a medical office after that. That would be demolished, and that back lot be converted to a secured vehicle storage lot for any vehicles that had been brought to the service center that aren't contained within the building. Hours of operation for the facility would be between 7 a.m. and midnight, but customer access would only be between 8 and 5. Project would compose 2 shifts of workers, and ultimately at build out employ between 100 and 120 people. Service for the site, any customer service would primarily be by appointment. There would be limited walk-in access, so you wouldn't have much customer traffic coming to and from. And the applicant does also propose, as part of the project, to provide limited service for rental of some vehicles. This would be strictly limited to customers that have brought their vehicle for service, depending on what the turnaround time would be. Would not be a rental facility for the general public. So this is the existing site, is the old Furniture Mart. As I said, this is on Orange Show Road on the north side, immediately across from the Target, there off of E Street. And then the other property, as noted, would be connected through the back, which was that old post office. So this is the existing site. We have our parking area in the front, the existing building. There's a side access here that would be connected between the two sites. They're slightly different grades, so there would be a small ramp that would connect the two, and then this is that building at the rear that would be demolished. The proposed site, as you see, the whole back portion would be just a vehicle parking area. This would be completely fenced off, secured, not visible from the public or the public right-of-way, or by the public or from the public right-of-way. The building itself, significant tenant improvements to the building for all of the infrastructure needed for the collision center, including 2 separate paint booths, all within the building, as all work would be. And then the front parking lot would be slightly reconfigured just to create a little bit more maneuverability, so eliminating one of those aisles of parking, reconfiguring the rest, and then within the existing and a few modified planter areas, all upgraded landscaping, as well as upgraded landscaping on the exterior of the storage lot on the north side. The building itself, minimal improvements to the exterior of the building, primarily cosmetic, related to improvements to the existing finishes and materials, anything that's been damaged, obviously from sitting vacant for as long as it has, repainting of the building, and then an all-new storefront system, as a lot of it has been damaged, boarded up, over the years. With that, our recommendation this evening would be to adopt Resolution 2024-003. This would find that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA as an infill development project. And then also request to approve conditional use permit 2023 based off the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions that have been provided in the packet. With that, I will open it up. If you have any questions, we also have a number from the applicant's team, including the developer of the site, operators, and technical consultants. Thank you.
We will now open it up for a public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
So if I may, just to start off the public hearing, we'll actually, if we may bring up the applicant, they'd just like to make a
All right, thank you.
small presentation.
Good evening, Chairwoman Armstead, Commissioners. I'm very pleased to be standing here today. My name is Rodney Bowden. I'm with a development group, an investment group in real estate called Via West Group. I'm here representing a development that we're very excited to bring to the city of San Bernardino. Excuse me. The slides only go so far as to call this an electronic vehicle collision center, but it is Tesla that would be the tenant for this building. And I think it's important to note that this is a state-of-the-art facility with high-tech, high-skilled jobs and high-tech, high-skilled equipment. This is not just your traditional collision center. It's also a cleaner version than you might see for cars that use oil, gas, etc. So when you look at this, I would hope that you would think through what we know about Tesla as a design and a company, and think through that lens as you consider the use and you consider the ability for us to turn a building that has been very run down into something modern and something that we can, and hopefully City of San Bernardino can be proud of. And I also would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to personally thank Travis, your entire city staff in every department. This is by far the fastest I've ever seen a CUP process get to Planning Commission, and you should all be commended for that. You've made it a point to all of us that you believe in the project, that you are a great city to work with, and we feel very welcome here. Thank you to everybody that was involved in that. Happy to answer any questions. We've brought a team of experts with us and folks from Tesla if you'd like to hear from anyone. Happy to answer any questions, no matter how big or small.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I just have one question. I just want to make sure that you've read the conditions of approval and you agree with all of them.
Yes, ma'am. We've gone through those ad nauseum, and we're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I can go. It looks like a great project. I'm glad to see electric vehicle facility come to the city. I wanted to maybe ask a little more about the environmentals. I just want to be sensitive to this being next to, I believe, the Red Cross facility, as well as the Humane Society, which performs medical procedures on pets. Can you share a little more about the designs and actions being taken to ensure pollutants are being controlled inside the building, as well as potential metals from work done on vehicles?
I'm actually going to bring up one of our consultants that can speak to that a little bit. I'll speak to the first part. Just one moment. So as far as the infill development exemption, which is what we're looking at, there's a few specific sections that we do have to look to. One is first and foremost zoning general plan consistency, which, as noted, this is an approved, conditionally approved use within that zoning district. Traffic is always another one. There was a traffic study. It was a focused traffic study that was prepared for the project, just because of the scale of it and the anticipated traffic, given their operations and the kind of appointment-based process that they have. That study found that there was going to be no significant impacts at either of the intersections that they looked at, specifically Orange Show and E Street, and then to the east, Orange Show and Arrowhead. The other big one from that, and that's what I'll kind of tag in here, is regarding kind of the air quality and more contaminants, those things that you mentioned. Go ahead. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Clausen. I work with MD Acoustics. I completed the air quality and greenhouse gas study for the project. So I compared the construction and operation of the project to the thresholds set by the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Found that both localized and regional emissions would be less than significant on all fronts. And I would also like to note that I did not take reductions for electric vehicle usage, specifically for mobile emissions. So this is a conservative analysis using standard emission factors for traditional vehicles. And I do also mention in our report, the project will be compliant with, I believe it is Rule 481 from the district, which covers paint booth operations and all the ventilation requirements. And the project will be compliant with that as well.
And one more question, and maybe a clarifying
Yes.
question. Is there an exit on the back lane as well? Just
Yes.
thinking
So
about fire
I
safety.
apologize. I did mean to mention that. Thank you for your question. So there are 3 points of access onto the site. The primary access point down here would be the one off of Orange Show Road. That would be the main in and out for any customer traffic coming in. The 2 back end, primarily access into this back lot would just be through the drive here as it connects then directly into the building. These 2 back here are specifically for emergency services. So fire access, should that be needed. And refuse would also be located in this back lot area, so they would have access in and out those gates, but those wouldn't be designated for any kind of standard, daily traffic.
Perfect. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Travis, what retail is going to be converted? Are there buildings there right now?
Yes. So
What are they?
as I noted, the building here in the front that would actually become the collision center itself is the old Furniture Mart. It's a building just located immediately west of the blood bank down on Orange Show. The building in the rear that would be demolished historically had been an old post office, closed down about 9-10 years ago, I believe. And then I know there was a project that we did converting it to, I believe, a medical office, but that has since closed.
Are those buildings going to be raised?
So the one in the rear, the old post office building, would be raised just to create this just surface parking area, the secured parking lot in the back. The other building, the existing footprint would all be repurposed for the collision facility.
Okay.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
I had some comments or questions more about the actual project. Or if you can tell us more about the collision center. Is this mainly just Tesla vehicles? Are we adding additional electric charger stations at this as part of this project?
No, so this would be exclusively for Tesla as it's been proposed. But we have anyone from kind of operations that might be able to speak. If you would join me. We'll bring up someone with Tesla that would be able to talk a little bit about their operations and the plan for the site. Sorry, thank you.
That's okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Valeria Lumagi. I'm the regional manager for Southern California for Tesla Collision Center. So what was the question?
So I was curious to know more about the actual collision center. As part of are you guys just repairing like Tesla electric vehicles that were in car crashes? What's the purpose of basically this building? And are we adding additional electric charger stalls as part of the project?
Yes, so basically it is just Tesla. We're not fixing any other models, just Tesla. 5 different models, that's all we have. And yes, there will be chargers placed there to charge the vehicles as they get dropped off and delivered, so the cars are fully charged to the site. And that's actually, after design, it would be conformed to how many charges, charge station it would need.
And then just one more question. What stage are we at in design? Is it close to being finalized?
90%. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all that I have. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
I have a few questions and comments. First, I like the project. Tesla always brings something very bright and vibrant, and that's very needed in that area, in any area in the city, right? What's the anticipated volume? We hear in media, crashes of all kinds of vehicles, Tesla included. But what's the anticipated volume, and what kind of volume can the facility hold? And I'm not too familiar. I know there's a Tesla facility, 210 westbound, north of the 210 somewhere. Not sure. Is that similar to what we're going to see here? Thank you.
Sorry, just to be clear, you're looking kind of what would be like the daily traffic to the site?
Yeah. What's your anticipated volume there? How many vehicles? How many can you hold? And then which would include the traffic. I mean, we have 4 stalls. We have 8 booths. And how much service area are you guys covering?
So I will call someone for that question because that's a design team. But I want to clarify on the charging. I just want to go back to that if that's okay. This is not a public use on the charging. I just want to make sure that this is when we do create the charging station is specifically just for the cars being repaired. So the public will not have access to it. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Not even Teslas, right?
Teslas. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Nicholas Barger. I'm a senior design manager for Tesla here on the infrastructure development team in Southern California. I think the question was about volume of traffic. We're scrambling to look up those numbers at this moment, so I don't have an answer for you just yet. But you had a secondary question, I believe, another facility off of the 210?
Yeah, the question was, is it similar? Because I'm not too familiar with that facility. Is it similar? How much anticipate? I was just trying to get a general reference of what kind of work you guys anticipated doing there. So it doesn't have to be a specific number to satisfy me. Just how much work you anticipate.
Are you referring to the one in Upland?
Yes.
Yeah. The facility in Upland is a service center, so it would have more, and it also includes a sales and delivery portion. Is this your region? You want to speak to that?
Yeah, so basically, how big is the facility again?
Ours is 30,000 square feet. I think Upland is closer to 50.
So this is going to be about 30? Okay, so just on the traffic flow, 30,000 square footage, depending on like what we have with other sites, usually run about, I would say about 118 to about 150 cars a month repaired. Now, that's not, it could be a little bit more depending on what we would call work in process, in and out, give or take. But that's actually scoped for, the size of the shop. So if it's about 30,000, about 150 cars.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I will just add, I think it does actually answer your question. Within the justification letter that was submitted to the project, it does note the anticipated volume would be somewhere between 5 and 20 appointments per day. So if that maxed out, they're only open during the week. You have about 20 days, 22 days out of the week. So that's where you would get to kind of that, out of the month, I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner. That's where you would get to roughly that 150 or so, kind of top end number.
And I have a final question. Let's see. Will there be landscaping on the front and the back? I didn't hear that.
Oh, so sorry. Thank you. Very good question. So these areas along the frontage here, on Orange Hill Road on the south side, and then throughout the parking area, kind of limited on the sides, and then along the front of the building, that would all be new and upgraded landscaping. And then as far as the rear of the site, in the secured lot, because that's completely walled off, it's not visible, there wouldn't be anything within that, but there is a 10-foot setback up along the street that would be fully landscaped, that would be outside of the fencing.
Okay. And then a second question is, were there anticipated jobs? New companies
As I did
in the
note,
city?
it says in the justification letter, somewhere, I believe first shift was, 60 to 80? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know the head count.
Oh, okay.
But let me give you my spiel on the jobs.
Sorry, thank you.
So one of the great things about when we do open up a site is we only hire as much as possible within. We open up 2 shifts to have the public that's working in our facility benefit from that, because we do understand that if people are closer to home, chances are they won't leave the company. So we run 2 shifts because it actually, what we found in other sites that I handle is actually the cost of babysitting. Right? So parents, because we have the morning shift and the evening shift, people tend to want to stay because it limits, the sitting part. So some parents will start at 3 o'clock. They actually would love to, take their kids to school. It just limits their overhead. That's one of them. The other thing is also our benefits, right? So it's going to employ a lot of people for the city, but we also reach out. We have a outreach program to the colleges. So what we do is we reach out to the colleges because collision is a very dying breed of people as far as technical. There's skilled laborers of repairing cars. We're running out. So what we've been doing is reaching out to colleges. We've actually have a program that's called the START program, where we pay people to go to college to get on this program so they could really advance, and then we basically take them as an internship and pay them as they're learning. So this is big for a lot of the communities because some people don't want to go to that 4-year college, right? They just want to learn a trade, and that's what we do. So we really reach out to the public in the city because, it's better. It's rounded. They appreciate it more, and it actually lower their cost of living because of the commute and all that. We also, if we can't hire in the city, we also have a rideshare program. What that is basically we give people a car to come to work. We pay for gas and the mileage, and we give them a car. So we do all these things to really help the community out, but the first thing we do is really hire within the city because we really believe in that balance of life, and collision, if you know anybody in the field, it's not an easy job. It's very intense. You're taking someone's possession away from them that paid a lot of money for, and you're keeping it for some time. And, people, it's hard technical work. So we want to make sure where they work, they're happy and all that good stuff. So we really look at the benefits of it. And we, like I said, it's a benefit for us to hire within. So, yeah, so if it's, what do we say, about 120 people?
I think I actually misquoted that. Based off the information provided for the project, it'd be about 50 employees during the main shift, as well as upwards of another 40 kind of during that secondary shift.
Right. And so, and a lot of these people, I'm telling you, you're not going to find them, so we train them. So we don't have a preference, right? Is anybody willing to work and is going to sacrifice the time to learn, we'll hire you. Yeah. Do you have any other questions for me?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
I got something, Chair. So that's awesome that, that Tesla's doing that for the individuals being employed throughout the project. I have a question for your construction project. What kind of firms do you guys attract, and are they local firms? We're trying to keep it local, right? We need more, the body shop and the vehicle technicians and whatnot. That's awesome as well. It's a long-term job, but for the temporary construction jobs, are we looking at hiring local and trying to source our workforce from a certain dynamic or certain area or mileage around the site? I know people in that area would love to build that project as well. Do the demo and ultimately build.
That's a great question. So we have not chosen a general contractor for the project yet. However, each of the contractors in the running are Inland Empire locals, and presumably they're going to be drawing from the folks that are in and around this area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any additional public comments?
Excuse me, I have a question. My property is right next to the site, and that's why I came today.
Ma'am, could you come up to the microphone and then also fill out a speaker slip?
Oh, okay. Do you have a speaker slip?
Yeah, afterwards you can. So go ahead and come up to the microphone.
My name is Frances Carter. I'm right next to the site. And I'm usually working, so I didn't really find out too much about this till a few weeks
Chair,
ago.
could you officially open the public hearing?
Yeah, we will now open the public hearing.
Okay, because I did receive this, and my son is sitting right over there. I just received it because I was at a different location, but I was just interested about this because my property is right next to it, 1 minute away. It's the one that's highlighted over here, right next to it, these two. That's split into 4 and the,
Which property? Oh, that's on the
This-
next project.
oh, okay.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
that's-
then I'm sorry, then how did I get today then? Because
No,
they gave me the
it's-
sheet.
I'm sorry. Sorry, that was regarding item number 4, so we will come
Are
back to
there
that.
any additional public comments? It's open for public hearing. Any comments on this? No. No, we will now close the public hearing and take a vote.
I move to approve the item.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Chair Armstead? Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Ivan Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando Garcia?
Yes.
Vote is unanimous. It passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Now we'll go to item number 4, Development Code Amendment, Zoning Map Amendment 20-05, and Development Permit Type D 20-03.
Okay, yes, Chair and members of the commission, I'll have Senior Planner Travis Martineau present this item for you this evening.
All right. Sorry. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Commission. I'm back. Item number 4 this evening, as noted, Development Code Amendment. This is to amend the zoning map 20-05 and Development Permit Type D 20-03. This is a project that looks to construct an industrial warehouse building just under 90,000 square feet in size. Project site is located on the northeast corner of South Waterman and East Central Avenue. Total project site is just a hair over 4 acres in size, and the current zoning of the property is split between the office industrial park zoning and the industrial light. As noted, here's the project area. It's 3 parcels, just a hair over 4 acres. It's right on the exact corner of Central and Waterman. 2 of the parcels currently are zoned office industrial park. One of them, a little small portion in the lower right corner, is zoned industrial light. And as you can see, here's an aerial of the site. This aerial is older, but I included this just for a specific purpose, because the property as it is, or as it was, used to be occupied by 2 separate warehouse buildings here and then at the back corner of the site. Those buildings, as I'll explain a little bit more, have since been demolished for specific reasons. There was fire damage to them, and they were deemed a hazard, so they did have to come down. That was during the application period on this project, as it has gone on since 2020. So here's kind of what the existing site looks like. Roughly, these are. This is a photo looking across Waterman to the east. You can see it's been completely raised. All of the improvements, or all of the structure improvements, removed. This is from the corner itself, with Waterman on the left and Central on the right, and then down along Central looking at the property. So as I did mention, there's a little bit of background with this project. This has been going on since 2020. During that time, as part of the project, there was environmental review done. It was determined that a mitigated negative declaration would be prepared for this item. That was ultimately completed back in spring of 2022. In April specifically, the draft initial study and mitigated neg deck was released to the public. It was for a standard 20-day review period. During that time, we did receive comments from 2 parties. It was 2 different law firms representing SAFER and the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. Responses were put together to those comments, and ultimately we did bring this item forward between May and August. There were 4 different meetings that we brought this to the Planning Commission for. The majority of those meetings, it was simply continued to the next meeting. In August, we did bring the project up for a formal discussion. At that time, and during that public review period, there were additional comments that were received from those same 2 parties. In the August meeting, it was decided during the meeting, because of the nature of the additional comments and wanting to be able to account for those and provide the appropriate responses and any updates to the environmental as may be needed to respond, we did pull that item from the agenda to a meeting that was not to be determined. During the intervening time, obviously, we have gone back and forth. There's been additional review done to the mitigated neg deck. There's been updates to it and responses prepared. I do want to stress, though, there's been no additional mitigation or no additional impacts. The updates that have been done to the document were simply to provide additional detail to respond to the comments that were provided, but it was found that through those responses, there were no additional impacts that hadn't previously been identified. Ultimately, working through that, we did get a final version of the mitigated neg deck that was submitted back to the city in December. That's been reviewed by staff and by our environmental council, and we determined that everything in the comments provided and for the project has been satisfactorily addressed. So again, also a little bit of background with the site. As I mentioned, it did have those 2 warehouse buildings on it. About a year after this application was first submitted, there was fire damage done to the buildings. They're vacant buildings. Unfortunately, there were, I believe, homeless that had gotten into the site, or transients that had gotten into the site, rather, did cause fire damage to both of the buildings. Ultimately, in March of 21, they were declared unsafe by the fire department because of that, and it was instructed that they needed to be demolished immediately. There was an application submitted that same month. The following month, the permit was issued, and then over the next couple months, I believe up through June of that year, the buildings ultimately did come down, and it was brought to the state that the site currently sits today. So then, as far as the project, as I noted, 2 of the properties are zoned in the office industrial park zoning district. That is an industrial land use designation. That is why there is no general plan amendment involved in this. But it is kind of more of the office park zone that typically would not permit the warehouse development. In this case, we are proposing to change that. That would be for 3.84 acres of the site, and then ultimately consolidate those 4 parcels just over 4 acres into 1 for this development. So the proposed site plan, so this is the site. You have Waterman on the left side, Central on the south side, and now it would be 1 consolidated building, just a little bit over the size that was there previously. That would be set kind of down along Central, closer to Waterman, and then you do have a projection on the building that's more for the office that you'll see in the rendering coming up, that would kind of sit right up at the corner. These are the elevations of the building, so kind of a couple mixes of colors. It's kind of consistent with the color scheme of the company's logo. Gray tower elements at both the corners. What you're looking at on the top here, I believe, would be the Waterman elevation. That's the west. So you see on the far right is where that office kind of pop-out area would be. And then the other portion, these are both the street frontages. So the other portion would be what's along Central Avenue, and you'd see that same office area all the way on the left that would be at the intersection. As far as landscaping, significant landscaping along both streets. We do have kind of a double run of landscaping along Central. As the building does sit closer there, we wanted to try to buffer that a little bit more. And then through the publicly accessible parking area along Waterman, and then back entering the truck court from both sides. 'Cause there is access to the truck court from both Central and Waterman, and then 1/3 driveway that serves the vehicular parking area also along Waterman. No landscaping would be within the truck court area, as is typical. These are taller screen walls. It wouldn't be visible, and it would just, generally would impede the movements within the truck court area. So this is a rendering of the project. This is looking directly at the corner, so you see kind of that office-looking component that would project out from the building, all open glass, very clean look, that would take away a little bit of kind of the harsh sheer wall that's typical of the warehouses, removing that from the corner. And then as far as our recommendation this evening, ultimately, because of this proposed zoning map amendment, this item will have to proceed to the City Council for final consideration. So our recommendation tonight is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2024-004. That would be forwarding a recommendation that the Mayor and City Council adopt the mitigated negative declaration that's been prepared, also adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and then ultimately approve the Development Code Amendment to amend the zoning map 2005 and Development Permit Type D 20-03, based on the findings and the conditions that have been provided in the packet for your review. With that, I'll open it up to any questions, and we do as well have the applicant's team and environmental consultant here in case you have any questions.
We will now open this for a public hearing. Do we have any public comments? Is the applicant here?
We did have the speaker from the previous item, so I think we'll see if she wanted to come up.
All right, may we have Francis Carter, please?
I came today because my property is just a minute away from what's being built right next to it, the development that you're doing. And that's why I was interested, because it's right next door to my property. And I wanted to find out a little bit more information.
We will have the applicant provide additional information. What is your?
It's right here. There's 2
along Central.
parcels. Yes,
Okay.
it's right next to it. It said it was 1 minute away. And this is the property, right? This was,
Correct.
used to be 368. So I
correct.
guess you guys bought this up. But this is part of my property, and this is all my property right here.
Okay, so-
And then this is my property on this end too.
Okay, so just for clarity, it looks like the properties we're looking at would be immediately abutting the site.
Okay,
Here,
yeah.
just on the east side, fronting Central Avenue and then running back kind of along the same,
Right.
same line as the project site.
Right, there's two parts to it.
I mean, the purple lines, I think, those are all lot lines, just as they're shown up. But it looks like, if I'm understanding correctly, it would be the properties, there's two parcels that kind of sit
Goes
one in front of
above,
each other.
right.
Just immediately to the east of the site. So as it is, as far as the design, then your properties would be just right in here. So they would be abutting the truck court. There would be a screen wall that's constructed all along here enclosing, similar to the other development that's been in the area. There would be a driveway down here.
The driveway's right in between it?
The driveway is just right at the very corner of their site, not encroaching onto your property, but just right at the end of their site. That would be one of the two access points for any truck traffic coming in and out. And then the rest of it would just be landscaped all along the frontage, and once you get back about halfway on the site, it becomes the secured truck court, and you would just have a screen wall that's there.
Okay, so you're saying my property is not where where's my property at?
It
'Cause
would
I
be,
can't-
so this is the
'cause
edge
that
of their
doesn't look-
project site, your property, if I'm understanding what
yeah,
you're pointing
this
to
is these
correctly,
two.
it would be the properties right here. So
Okay.
just off of their site. So no impact, no development on your
Okay,
site.
because it
nothing's
looked like it was
proposed there.
pretty close, like
Yeah.
1
It
minute
would be-
away.
It would be up, as it looks, to the property line dividing your site
Mm-hmm.
and the project site, but no improvements would then encroach onto that site.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure what was going
Ma'am?
on and if it would affect, going back and forth or in that area.
What do you have on the property?
I have this land that goes to one end to another end of the street, and then I have a house that's up there also. And then the corner area, I guess, can you go back to that picture? Because you can see the,
This is
right.
Central Avenue here.
I know, that's where I live, right next door to where you're building.
So your property should be somewhere in this
Yeah,
general
it's right in
area.
that area, right. There's a house and there's land right next to it.
And people reside at the house that you have?
Not at the moment, but I did have family members that were in there, and I own the property now, since my mother added me on 2013. She passed away, so yeah.
So at this time, I think it would be appropriate to see if the applicant has a presentation or comments.
Not really, I just wanted to make sure what was going on. I'm not near a phone, because I work at an institution, so I just wanted to, be here to see what was going on and what was, going to be next to the property.
And Francis, if I may ask, so is your property 378
Yeah,
Central
on
Avenue?
388 East Central, yes.
Okay,
right
thank you.
next door.
We have another speaker, another public comment. Thomas Rugley? Rugel?
It's like giggle with an R, so it's
Okay.
Wriggle. Yeah, so I'm Thomas Wriggle. I know. I'm Thomas Wriggle. I'm the architect for Ruby and Tebby, the owner of the property. So I don't want to speak publicly, but I am here to respond to questions. I just want to make sure I had my name on the list.
Good evening, Chair, esteemed commissioners. Thank you for having me and for listening to what I have to say. Maybe a little brief introduction about the company, who we are, and what we plan on doing here, just to give this story a little bit more color. I'm representing Orly and the Amazing 34 project. The company really is the American dream story. My father, he came here to the States with $700 in his pocket, didn't really speak a word of the English language, and built himself up. And within a couple of years, he started Orly. And still to this day, his mission statement is to democratize top quality products for low and middle income families. We've been doing business in California since the inception, since the 80s. We service a lot of California retail stores. We do believe in being good to the state. We're not greedy developers. We're a small mama papa business trying to consolidate a bunch of different spaces into one. It's a long-awaited dream of ours. And for the past 4 years, Travis went over this. This project has gone left and right and took turns we didn't anticipate. But in collaboration with the city staff, we crafted a vision that we think revitalizes a space that has been neglected. It's a shame the buildings had to come down, but I promise you this building will be nice. It'll be done tastefully. We will do more than is required in terms of putting up greenery and trees. We'll mitigate as much noise as possible. The trucks will really only be operating from 8 to 4 p.m., hardly ever before 11 o'clock, but those are our opening hours. 11 to 2 would be peak times for us. That's really it. I mean, I stand by you in front of you guys humbly and with gratitude. I hope you guys accept what we present. We really are here to work with you. We'd like to be a good neighbor to you. We're not looking to do anything malicious or with bad intent. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them as best as I could. Some of the questions that I can't answer, we have some professionals here that can speak to that.
We open it up for more public comment. Any more
So,
comments?
If there's no public, we can leave the public hearing open in the event any of the commissioners have questions.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. One clarification. So the table in the report indicating site and surrounding uses, the north-south north site land use is designated as single-family residential / industrial. Can you clarify what that means and how it's two land uses at once?
So it's really just because of the size of the site and the depth, it does front a few different properties. Up here, it's not just one. And this area, even though it is zoned for industrial use and has been for several decades, there's newer industrial development and still some older single-family development. I would say that's very similar, just to your question, just to how it's noted on the east and to the public comment that we did receive. There's industrial properties to the east, and then we also do have a few single-family residences that are still in the area. So it's kind of a combination of existing uses.
Got it. My second question, I was curious why it took so long for this to come back to the commission. Maybe there's just other factors that we weren't aware about, but looking at the timeline, I think it took over a year for folks to respond to the comments that came to the Planning Commission, if I looked at the timeline correctly.
You are correct regarding the timeline. So without going through kind of a month-to-month breakdown on it, ultimately when it did come back, said there were several steps that when we did originally pull the item, for those additional comments, there were several steps that were involved. One was first assessing the comments, looking at, determining kind of the validity of them, given the MND as it stood at the time. And then before we ultimately proceeded with responding to those, there was additional environmental review or additional review of the document that our legal counsel was to do. To do that, there's some procedural matters that we had to do as far as agreements that are put in place for the cost of that, because that's outside of the standard application costs. That does administrative functions, unfortunately, take sometimes longer than we want them to, as we all know. Once that was completed, then there was also a conflict with the counsel for the project funny enough, turned out to happen to be the same counsel the city used. That couldn't happen because there would be a direct conflict of interest. So the applicant did have to retain an additional counsel that we do have here with us this evening, just so that there was a complete separation between the two sides. That just added to the process. Ultimately, probably about half the time really elapsed just getting those things lined up. Then they got into the process of actually responding to and addressing the comments on the MND, and then providing the additional detail in there where it was needed.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments?
Oh, I do have one. I just want to make sure that the applicant has read all of the conditions and agrees to all of them.
I can say they have been provided the conditions. I believe everyone is.
That's a yes? Yes. Thank you.
We have nods in agreement, for the record.
I have a couple questions and comments. First question is for the setbacks of the new warehouse. I just hope that we're abiding by the city code, because I know I've seen a couple of warehouses along Waterman that seem that they're very close to the public right of way.
Yeah, so the standard, so again, setbacks and all other development standards for this project have been looked at for the proposed zoning district, which would be the industrial light. Should the project be approved, that zoning district would be changed, and we would want to make sure it's compliant from day one. The industrial light zone, as it is, has a 10-foot setback. On this side, forgive me, it's going to be far too hard to read any of this, but we're looking 20 there. Yeah. On the Central Avenue portion, the majority of the site, sorry, thank you, Thomas, is sitting approximately 20 feet down along here. So double the required setback. It does taper closer to that 10-foot just because there's an adjustment to the right-of-way, and just to keep for the right turn pocket, and just to keep the building oriented straight. It does project closer, but it's still outside of the setback. And then the portion along Waterman, 68 feet. Yeah, so we have it's about 15 just for this little office pop-out portion, and then the majority of the building is between 65 and 70 feet back from the public right-of-way, and then slightly further from the street itself, accounting for the parkway.
Yeah, thank you for that, Travis. I am definitely for this project. The other comment that I wanted to make is I hope we can continue to be a good neighbor to Francis Carter that came up and provided a public comment, and just be aware of any existing conditions that are adjacent to her property. And I'm for this project. I appreciate city staff and even the developer architects for bringing this project to our city. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've seen that too on Waterman, and I'm not real happy how close it is to the sidewalk and how close it is to the street, but if it's within our setbacks, then that's what it is. And I also echo his comments about being a good neighbor to Ms. Carter and to her property.
If I could respond to that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Thomas Riggle, I'm the architect. Along the east side, we did provide, sorry, I got to put my glasses back on, hold on. So we did provide 52.5 feet where 10 is required. So we will have landscape across there, and you'll notice that there's no trucks on that side. The trucks are all on the north side. So the activity and the, things are going to be delivered will be on the north end of the building. And you can see the setback there from the residential as well. So we recognized that as part of the whole development of the project. And then the same as on the corner, if you remember, the building that was there was sort of set back in the same way. So we tried to kind of mimic what was there. And you can see how we've tried to landscape that corner, and it is, if you see those little dashed lines in there, it's set back. Yeah, it's set back from the setback. So on all sides it exceeds. And on the neighbor's side to the east, and Ruby was even saying, we want to be a good neighbor there and landscape across there, so it's not a concern. But there will be a high wall for the trucks, so you don't see those. So she'll have privacy on that side. So thank you. We're really, really happy to be here.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I have a comment. So,
Commissioner, right now, we're in questions. So if you're ready to close kind of the question period with the applicant and staff, you could, the chair could close the public hearing and bring it back up to the commissioners for discussion and comment.
I have a question. If there's still time. What efforts, or if any, are there to use electric trucks, which is a coming rule in the state?
I'll bring the applicant back up.
It's a good question. It happens to be that most of the customers that we sell to, they use their own trucks to pick up. So it's not really in our control. I think as time goes on, we'll start to see a lot more of that. We didn't touch on any solar, but we were planning to put solar on the roof to offset some of the electricity. And again, we just want to be as neutral as possible.
Yeah, I think to that end, what's important is that the state has passed a law that says by 2035, the trucks will be electric. I'm working on an electric truck facility in a remote location. And so the regulations are in place to make that happen. And as the state comes along, the distributors that come to this facility will be required to meet state law.
Thanks for clarifying.
Okay, are there any other public comments or any other questions? I'm sorry, are there any other questions?
So is this considered industrial? Because there's only 3 other houses next to my property. I'm sorry. Could you plug me? Is this considered industrial? Because my house is right 1 minute away from what you're going to develop. And then on Boise, I have a house that's right across from industrial. I can probably have 5 steps across the street and it's right next door to me. So is this considered industrial property now or what? Because there's only like 2 other houses besides my property and everything is industrial around it. On the opposite side, I know who, my godmother used to live there, passed away. So there's 2 houses on that side and that's it for the properties that are over there. So I'm wondering, is this because when I went to pay the taxes on one of the property that I have land, they have some of it as industrial. So I'm trying to figure out like what's going on.
So Chair, if I could answer that question, just for clarification for the commission as well. The actual zoning for the property right now is office industrial park and industrial light. The general plan designation is industrial. The request is for industrial light. And the uses proposed are industrial, so the area is industrial designated with both the general plan and the zoning. So that is correct. It is all industrial.
Yeah, just to expand really quickly, the site and the immediate surrounding, but generally speaking, the kind of the area bound, this is central in Waterman. From Waterman, pretty much all the way east to Tippecanoe is industrial. There's a couple different designations within that, but it still follows under, or a couple different types of zones, but it still falls within the industrial designation. And then running north to south, it's really basically from Mill, with some jogging, from Mill all the way down really to kind of the Santa Ana. That's really the industrial block that the city has designated. As was noted by the speaker, there are still residences within that area. As you know, when cities change zoning on property, by no means does it mean the existing uses go away, but for the life of the existing development code and general plan, 20, 30 years, it has been the designated industrial block within the city.
I just have one other question, that's it. Because I drove around the neighborhood where I drove in back of Central, and I noticed that the people that were renting houses there, their landlords were giving them notice to leave. That was probably like 10 houses in back where I live. So I was wondering, are they changing that in industrial too?
So ma'am, at this point, I think the questions have been asked. It's not we have to kind of avoid conversations between the public and the commission because you're here to independently review. In general, the area is all designated industrial, so the zoning is all industrial. We can't opine to whether there's other landlord issues or other notices other than related to this specific project. For your consideration this evening and for conversation is this specific project for your review.
What I would just add to that, just for final clarification, is that the site itself, the 3 parcels involved in the project, there is no residential on any of those. So should this project be approved, there would be no change to the number of residences or loss of any residential units existing.
And I would just ask, mention for the speaker, the action that the commission would be taking this evening would be a recommendation to the city council. And when should the city council consider this item, at that time, the public will also have an opportunity to speak. And perhaps in between, the speaker could get with Travis Martin to answer some more questions so she has a better understanding of the project.
Are there any other questions? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, I would like to make a comment.
Chair, if you could just confirm there's no other public speakers.
Are there any more speakers? Close to public comment. Okay, now. Okay, I did drive through the area, and definitely right beside it, on the other side of the residences, there's another warehouse already just about complete. All of Central Avenue is definitely a warehouse corridor. My only concern is that here it is, a prime property on Waterman, and it's going to be a warehouse. It is, as you said, it is currently zoned office industrial. They want to have it rezoned to industrial light for another warehouse. That is a concern, that on Waterman, one of our prime corridors we're going to have, it's going to be a thoroughfare of all warehouses. And that's a comment. I think we could do better, but that's my comment. Thank you. Do we have any other comments? If not, we will now close for ready to vote.
It would be considering if there's any other comments or any other discussion with the commissioners, and then open up for a motion.
Okay, are there any other discussions from the commissioners? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I had a comment and maybe a question to staff. Looking at the surrounding land uses, there's a lot of single-family residential / industrial. Is there knowledge of this actual property being previously rezoned?
Any rezoning would have been done over.
I apologize. I do apologize.
How long has
I
this
missed the
property
question.
been zoned as industrial, since the 90s or before?
I mean, the current zoning designations with within the land use plan go back to the early 90s.
And before that, in this area, there was a lot of auto wrecking yards throughout this area.
Yeah.
So
There hasn't been, so the general plan that we're currently operating under has been in place since 2005, so 19 years, or just under 19 years right now. No rezoning activities have taken place since then. And even prior to that, the same zoning designation still existed within our development code and our previous zoning maps. So I have record going back as far as like 89, 90. And it's been consistent in some industrial designation, with slight, name changes. But that's as far back as I can go, and I haven't seen any residential since then, or prior to that.
Thank you.
Let me see what the question is. Hold on just a second.
You have a comment? Another public comment?
No, public hearing's closed.
Public hearing's closed. Okay, thank you.
Chair, at this time, the public hearing is closed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, I needed that. Okay, so now we are ready to vote.
I would move to approve. Do you need me to say everything, or is move to approve okay?
just to clarify, your motion is to move to approve the resolution forwarding the recommendation to council as set forth in the resolution, correct?
Correct.
I second.
For the vote. Chair Armstead? Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
No.
Commissioner Sherrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando Garcia?
Yes.
Vote is 4-2, it passes.
Okay, in this case, because it is not approved, but it moves forward with a recommendation. Oh, yeah, please clarify.
Yeah, just to clarify, Section 2.22.030 of the municipal code requires that any general plan amendment or amendment to the municipal code, which would include an amendment to the development code, be approved by the planning commission with 5 affirmative votes. And so at this point, the resolution does not pass. It will proceed to the council, but it will do so without the recommendation of the planning commission.
Thank you for that clarification. We are now ready for item number 5, extension of time 23-05 for development permit type P 21-01 and variance 21-02.
For your last item is an extension of time 23-05 for a development permit type P 21-01 and variance 21-02. This is for a 20-unit multifamily residential development, and we have Senior Planner Travis Martin here to present the item.
All right, thank you. Last item for tonight, as noted, extension of time 2305 for DPP 2101 and variance 2102 is a request for a 1-year time extension for those 2 projects, ultimately involving the proposed development of a 20-unit multiple family residential project. It's on a property located on the east side of Ferndale Avenue, south of East 39th Street. The project site is just a hair over 1 acre in size and is currently zoned residential medium high. This is the property as noted. One singular property has been zoned residential medium high, surrounded by some other single family development within the city, and then a property that's in the county both to the west and to the south that is comprised of, as you can see on here, single family residential and other multifamily projects immediately south across the alley. So you have a little bit of a mix of things. There's a church property to the north, single family on the east side and west side, both in the city and county, and then multifamily in the county to the south. So just a little bit of background on the project. This was originally reviewed by the Planning Commission and ultimately approved at the meeting of January 11th back in 2022. It was for the development, I said, the 20-unit multifamily project, 2 buildings on the site, 6 units in one building, 12 units in one building, 8 units in the other, both 2-story buildings. Provided about 40 parking spaces for the units, that's 36 for resident and 4 per guest, all consistent with the development standards for the multifamily project and the zoning district that it's currently located within. The separate action that I mentioned, the variance 2102, that was for a reduction in the building setback. There's a specific property I'll show you here on the next slide, or a specific part of the site where, due to the configuration of the buildings, the 10-foot setback that would normally be required was reduced by about half to 4 feet 8 inches. Because there's some seismic no-build restrictions on certain parts of the site, the buildings had to be configured in a certain way that the very corner of one of the buildings projects in. So this is the existing site. This is looking northeast, so you have Ferndale kind of running up to the left, and then the alley between the city and the county running up towards the right. So this is the project site. So we have Ferndale this is all oriented with north at the top. So Ferndale is on the left side. There's an alley on the right-hand side. The buildings, as I noted, had to be kind of laid out on an angle because you have no build restrictions kind of running on the outside of both of them. This little portion right here is that projection. So there's a 10-foot setback that's kind of done as a large hash on the plan. that's noted, and it just clips into that with this little portion and then immediately cuts further away. And then, all other areas surrounding that property line would just be kind of open landscaped areas. Access is through Ferndale. It's gated access once you get onto the site, and then there's a separate gate down off the alley, so you have your 2 points. The property is laid out with a single driveway or single drive aisle between the 2 buildings. There are garages for all of the units on the lower portion of the building, as well as some of the units, and then you have additional parking that would be over on the east side here. So yeah, kind of basic layout. The floor plans are very similar between the 2, just 6 units in one and 4 in the other. You have a unit upstairs. The lower level have there are 2-bedroom units upstairs, single-bedroom units downstairs to account for the additional space taken up by the garages. These are the elevations of the building. You can see both buildings of the same style, just slightly different lengths given the number of units. But this would be what's visible kind of from the street, the kind of balconies for all the units. And then along that inner drive aisle, you see the garages that would be accessed. So none of the garages would be visible from the street. As far as landscaping, I mentioned you do have those 2 corner areas. So there are open spaces broken up across the site, kind of fronting each building. Dense landscaping all along the site, abutting the church property to the north, and then some single-family residential on the east, additional landscaping along the alley, quite significant landscaping up along the street frontage, and then 2 open turf areas for recreation for the residents. And with that, our recommendation this evening would be to adopt Resolution 2024-005. That would be finding that the environmental impacts of this project previously analyzed and adopted through the original approval. In that case, it was an infill development project. That is still found. Through this item, I do just want to clarify there's no additional impact. This particular action is looked at just as a statutorily exempt item because the extension of time does not create any new environmental impacts. It simply extends the expiration date. Everything that was applied before would still stand. So we would find that the environmental impacts were previously analyzed in the categorical exemption adopted, or found rather, on January 11th, 2022, and then approved the extension for for the development permit and the variance based off the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions. With that, I will open it up if you have any questions.
We will now open up for public hearing. Any comments? Do we have any public comments? No? We do have one.
We do have
one.
If you do have any questions, we do also have the architect on the project here this evening that could answer anything that may come up.
So if you, oh yes, the applicant would like to address the commission.
Madam Chair and members of the commission, my name is Gary Miller with Miller Architectural Corporation in Redlands, California. And we would just like to comment that this is, in our opinion, a very elegant design, especially in this neighborhood. We think it makes a nice transition between the church to the north and the existing multifamily apartments to the south. Secondly, as you can see, the site's rather difficult to work with because of that diagonal seismic fault that runs through there. But it enabled us to introduce more landscaping than normally one would see on a property like this, more recreation, amenity area also. I'd like to point out that little bit of encroachment that was identified right at that corner reduces it from what was stated as 10 feet to 4.5 feet, but then the entire balance of the site, the setback is far exceeded. So if you were to look at an average, it's much to the advantage of more setbacks. And I do just have one question. It's a question for Public Works. This is on the condition part of the resolution, page 8. Yes. As I read this, on the Ferndale Avenue, it states that the existing curb width is 18 feet from center line to curb, and it's proposed to go to 20. Everything else for the entire street is at 18. We would be out of step with the entire rest of the neighborhood, so we would ask that Public Works would allow us to just stay consistent with what's there, and will remain there for years. And with that, be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Which condition?
That's
27.
27, yes.
27B?
Correct. The table, only 27. Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, it's A, and you're right, the table.
So I think on this particular item, it is a Public Works condition, but it is as far as the right-of-way, it is directed by the city engineer, so the city engineer does have the flexibility to modify that condition, depending on, what is actually needed for that road, so staff could work with the applicant on that one.
Which condition? I'm sorry.
It's 27 for
27.
off-site improvements and dedications.
That's not something we consider, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, Chair, could you repeat the question?
No, I was just asking, is that something we consider?
As a condition of approval on the project, it would fall under your purview.
So as far as the commission, you could, approve or approve that request for the applicant. We do not have engineering. I guess my first question, is this the original conditions of approval or are these new ones?
These are the conditions as originally adopted 2 years ago.
Okay. So yeah, there was no change in the conditions coming forward to the extension of time. If the applicant wishes to request that change, the commission could consider that. But I do believe there is enough leeway in the language for the director or the city engineer could consider that request by the applicant to modify the dedication. And I do say that because it's very important that the city engineer actually review that and to make that determination. It's not something that I would consider making myself without the city engineer's input. So I think it's a conversation between the applicant and the city engineer on that, because it is a condition that was in the original project. This condition hasn't changed since the original project was approved.
So help me, is that a condition of our approval? Help me.
So yeah, well, you're approving the extension
Correct.
of the project.
Right.
So
Okay.
are you requesting them to remove that condition?
I think we would be content with either that, or if it is within the purview of the city engineer to consider the circumstances and at administrative level, allow that to be adjusted, then we're comfortable with that as well.
Yes, so I would not recommend making making a recommendation contrary to the conditions without the city engineer present to review those. So if the commission would like to deviate or modify that condition, I'd recommend continuing the item. However, with the consideration that the city engineer does have some leeway to take a look at that condition and see if that additional 2 feet is needed, that would be up to the city engineer.
Clarify.
So I think what you're asking is, should you approve it or not, the modification?
I thought we're just approving the extension of time.
Correct, you are. And with that, the applicant is also requesting a reconsideration of one of the conditions of approval.
Yeah. Through any extension, the approval staff and the approval body do officially have the discretion to adjust conditions. Sometimes typically it's if a standard changes, we may have to update something just so that things are referenced correctly. I would also just point out in this one, and I'm not sure if this would work for this evening. The condition as it is written is the 18 plus or minus existing. It's 20 proposed, and it does say as directed by the city engineer. So it's possible that even the way that it is worded, and I don't know, maybe Mary or council could chime in, that there could even if it's adopted as written, there could still be that allowance for the engineer to adjust it should it be
Correct.
deemed appropriate in the field.
What are we approving? Okay, I know the extension of time, got that. Now
Correct.
we're doing something else.
So the applicant's requesting reconsideration of that condition. Staff is recommending that the condition remain as it is, and it would be up to the city engineer to make any modifications. So we are recommending no changes to the condition. So you can consider that, or you consider making changes to that condition. If you would like to entertain making changes to that condition, I'd recommend continuing the item to the next meeting so the city engineer can be here.
Can I hear from any other commissioners?
I think that goes to a point I've made previously when I first got on this commission is why don't we have anybody from Public Works at these meetings to address these issues? And I know that that is not a community development. I know that there's no engineering staff in community development to be here, but that has been made by this commission, and it's continually ignored.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the first time this issue's come up since I've been here. I know normally the city engineer's office did check in to see if they needed to be here. Up until now, we did not need them, but I know they're limited on staff right now. But I will actually bring this forward to the new Public Works Director to see if he can provide resources to have an engineer here at the Planning Commission meetings.
Go ahead.
Hey, Travis, I had a question or comment. Can you show us this is dedicated easement along Ferndale, correct? Is it 1820? I guess I'm
We're asking the question
misunderstanding.
of what the dedication is.
Yeah, or the dimensions that we're talking about here, this condition of approval.
So what was being referred to, running from center line here on Ferndale, currently to the curb face, it's 18 feet plus or minus. I believe it's a local street is the designation, but I may be mistaken. On a local, the half width for the right of way is 30 feet. That's what's already existing, but the half width from center line to face of curb per the general plan is 20 feet. So the condition as was originally written for tonight and during the prior adoption was just simply saying to adjust the curb to bring it in line with the general plan standard. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I think the existing, from what I heard from the architect, is 18.
Correct,
Up to
yeah.
face of curb.
Yes, and that's
However-
acknowledged by Public Works staff as well. That's where it sits currently. It's just the general plan. If this was a brand new street being built, out of nothing, new subdivision, something like that, from center line, the curb would be set back a width of 20 feet.
So I guess my question would be is, can we approve the extension and then add an exception to go revisit this condition of approval and allow the city engineer to make his decision?
So, Commissioner Garcia, if you would allow me to speak. So, Chair, what you have before you for consideration is a resolution approving the extension of time and the variance subject to the conditions of approval that are written into that resolution. So if you, for example, if a commissioner wanted to approve the resolution as it is, you could make a motion to that effect. If a commissioner wanted to approve the resolution with a modified condition of approval, for example, in this case, the applicant is requesting removal of this condition or maybe modified language, you could entertain, once it gets to that point, a motion by a commissioner that would approve that would make a motion to approve the resolution with a modified or removed condition of approval. That is what the commission does have authority to. Now, of course, you have staff's recommendation that if you would like to extend, if you would like to reconsider that condition, that you may want to continue it so that the city engineer can opine and you can hear from their side. That's my understanding of what staff's recommendations had said, and that's what the authority you have with respect to approving a motion and modifying the conditions if you wanted to.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Are you done? Is there parking allowed on the street, Travis?
Sorry, it's a public street, so someone could park there, but it's not factored in any way to the parking required for the project.
So, but if there's parking on both sides of the street, are two cars able to pass by?
That would be a question for an engineer.
Right.
Apologize, that's a little beyond my depth of knowledge.
Understood.
Regarding the question on the street width, curb to curb, it's 36 feet wide. And so generally a parallel parking stall is 8 feet wide. So if you had parallel parking subtracted from the 36, that's 16 from the 36, leaving 20, which leaves you 10 feet going in each direction. I wouldn't call it generous, but it's accommodating. And if I just may say, this is my 37th year in business, and my 37th year I've done work either in the city or for the city. And I usually don't do this because it sounds patronizing, but Travis Martin carries a very heavy load. And you probably all know how difficult it is to get staff in this industry. And my industry is architects and in the planning industry. And I just wanted to appreciate how many projects Travis has to balance. And I think he does an excellent job at that. Thank you.
And just to add, I did speak to the applicant. He would prefer not to have the item continued, and we'll work with the city engineer on any additional items related to that condition.
Now, let me see if I'm clear. The city, that's already written into the conditions of this project, right? That they have to go through the city
Correct.
engineer.
And the applicant will accept those. We can have him come up and say he accepts those conditions of approval. And would prefer the commission to act on the extension of time.
If I may, I'm just going to take a stab here. With the hope to move the project forward this evening. I was going to see if we could move it forward with an option amended in here. We can do that too. Either way. Never mind.
So the item before you is the extension of time with no modifications to conditions.
Because it's already written into the conditions.
Correct.
Still with the engineer. Thank you.
Yes.
So we now close the public hearing,
Correct.
and I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to move the item forward for approval.
Commissioner Garcia, can you clarify your motion to move? Is your motion is to approve the proposed resolution, correct?
Correct. Make a motion to approve the proposed resolution.
I'll second.
Chair Armstead? Yes. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
I'm going to abstain.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando Garcia?
Yes.
Vote is 5-1. It passes.
Just to be clear, is it 5-1 or 5-0 with one abstention?
Sorry, 5-0, 1 was an abstain.
Thank you, everyone.
There are no other items. We need a motion to adjourn. No? Am I right? No?
So are there any planning commission reports? Any commissioners have any items?
No.
Any reporting? No.
Yes. I just want to say, I don't think I've made that request since you've been here, Mary, but it was one of the first requests I did make, that we did have public works staff here at these meetings.
I made a note to let the Public Works Director know. Okay,
I'll
and-
just share a quick announcement that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is holding a workshop this Friday evening at San Bernardino Valley College. And the regional administrator will also be present. So if any folks want to learn about the EPA and the grants it's offering, feel free to look at their website.
If I may, just I know there was mention in regards to the Planning Commission conference, and I reached out to Jennifer, just trying to get if there's an update or details in that. Maybe something I missed or anything new pop up with the Planning Commission conference.
So with that, you're requesting to attend the conference? Is that correct?
I'm requesting information.
Okay. Did we get the information out from Albert yet?
So I did send the email link out for the registration. Mary and myself have been checking with the city as far as possible either reimbursement or how they pay for the trainings. I did go back in to get the information over to city manager's office per Mary. However, the commissioner training is now saying that it's already full and there's a wait list. So in order to even get on that wait list, we would need to know who is interested, and we're still trying to coordinate how we would go about covering it if the wait list is opened.
Okay, I request attending.
Okay, so we can see about putting you on the wait list. And I know there's a couple trainings out there for commissioners, one's through the League of California Cities as well, and sometimes the American Planning Association has trainings and conferences as well. So you might check their websites as commissioners. I'll make a note to have staff kind of let you know a little bit further in advance when these items come up, because I know our attorney mentioned it at your last meeting, which by the time when he's ready to present, you're pretty close and a lot of these book up. So something to keep in mind, maybe checking with staff periodically if you're interested in training, attending those, so staff can be on the lookout for trainings.
Yeah, we would appreciate that. I would really love to go to a training. I went last year and it was helpful.
I'd like to get on the waiting list too. Thank you.
I also would like to be added to the waiting list. And then one more request. I just was wondering if we can reach out to the applicant for the sign permit for item number two, when they're going to have that tour, or if they can give us a date and time to go out and tour the project.
Okay, Jennifer, you got, okay. Yeah. Any other commissioner comments? And do you have any? No? Okay, well, for a director's report, tonight is my last meeting with you. I will be wrapping up here on February 21st with the council meeting. And I know the city still is in the queue with the new director, so I have no word on that for you. But in between my time and that, whenever the new director comes on, the city manager's office will be overseeing the department. So it's been my pleasure working with you. And I think we
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the staff has done an amazing job since I've been here. So I know there's been some tumultuous time in San Bernardino, but based on my experience working in the planning field and government for many years and the private sector, I believe that working with your staff, you do have a really great planning staff here. They are committed, and when they bring something before you, behind the scenes, they may not always agree, but their job is to uphold the municipal code and the general plan, and bringing items for you, and facilitating the development and working with the applicant and presenting the items for you, the commission, to make the final decisions on for those items you consider. So it's been my pleasure. So thank you all.
We want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now you can adjourn the meeting.
We need a motion.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Done.